What we're going to be doing this afternoon, as I think I mentioned, is we're going to be doing some analysis of tongue, nails and face. And it's going to be looking at things from a slightly different perspective to the traditional Chinese medicine and Ayurvedic understandings that we were looking at before. And we'll be looking again at lots of photos as well, so be prepared. And at the end of the class, what we'll do is, for those of you that feel comfortable sharing, we'll just make a big group and we'll just basically take it in turn for everybody to be analysed. And it might be that I just take a quick look at you and I might pick out, let's look at tongue or let's look at face, because we want to make sure we get through everybody who wants to be involved. If there's anybody who doesn't feel comfortable with sharing, just let me know, communicate that that's totally fine. And if also too, when we're looking at each other's faces and tongue and nails today, if we can perhaps not be like, okay, you're going to die. So just remember to think about the way that you word things and what you show on your face, and you know, just keep that respect going, okay? Any questions before we get started? No? Good to go. All right, let's go for it. In your handout booklet, you've got this little handout, okay? And it's just got some of the key tongue and nail analysis. And it's quite a handy little thing that you might want to consider putting into... It's not in there? It's not in there? Okay. I'll get that sussed out and I'll get copies for you guys today. So perhaps what I'll do is I'll just put a little reminder for myself over here.
Oh, it is in there.
Oh, it is?
It's towards the end of this section.
Oh, yes, there it is. Okay, so after the slides.
What page?
That doesn't have page numbers.
No, because they change. Okay, so there you go. So maybe put this in that. Perhaps put this in that folder that I mentioned earlier. You know, that one that you can use for when you're in consultations and you want a quick reference and you need to be looking through reams of study books, etc. Okay. I think you'll find that helpful. Now, the key thing when you are starting to look at other people's tongue, nails and face is you're trying to get an idea of what is actually a sign and how subtle can they be. Hey? You're sort of trying to figure out the ranges of difference that can occur. So what I would encourage you again to be doing is to look at everybody's tongue, nails and face that will possibly let you, so that you get an idea of how wide this range can be. Because sometimes even the most subtle signs can tell us the greatest things. And you're certainly going to see that when we go through the group later, okay? And look at each other's nails and tongue and face. So the books that I've already mentioned earlier, the one Kushi, Your Face Never Lies, is really helpful. And see here's a free download, Your Body Never Lies. That might be useful for you guys to download. If you can't read it, you can go to the online campus where Lane has put these presentations, I believe, and you should be able to find it there, or email me. But they're quite handy, all these little free ebooks and things that you get nowadays. Alright, so when we're looking at the face, what it can tell us is how specific parts of the body are operating. It can also tell us about aspects of the hot and the cold that we were talking about earlier. It can tell us about nutrient deficiencies, and they would be the key things that we're kind of looking at the face for. So if we were to consider what might be some facial abnormalities that might be worth looking at, what's some that you can think of? Puffy eyes. Yep.
Rashes.
What was the last one you said?
Swollen nose.
Swollen nose.
Rashes.
Rashes, yes.
Asymmetry.
Asymmetry, yep.
Lines.
Lines, yep.
Acne and where it's located on the face.
Perfect, yes. And also the type of acne. So, I mean, that's one thing that you really want to know, because of course there's different forms, but there's a different nature to different types of acne, you know, pustular versus blackheads and so on. Yep. What else?
Discoloration, different colours.
Yeah, exactly. So perhaps you might see there's darkness in an area, or there is redness, or a yellow coloration. Yep.
And then these thin lines, some people have this thing, there's a name to it.
Yeah. all sorts of things like fatty deposits, which are also known as milia, everything age spots, or liver spots as we also call them. All of this can be relevant, okay? And a lot of the time what people will ask at the beginning is, well, everybody has wrinkles, so what do we know is normal or abnormal? So I always say just use your common sense, think to yourself, for the age this person is, would I normally expect to see this many wrinkles? And also note whereabouts perhaps the wrinkles are found. Like it might be that the rest of the face is actually quite smooth, but they're primarily found in one location. And yes, of course, that could be relating to the way they smile or different facial grimaces and things that they may pull, but there may also be some links to how various parts of their bodies are working. And of course, as we go through today and looking at these different signs, always call out those common sense things to think of first, yeah? Because then we can start looking at what else it could also mean, yeah? So by common sense, I mean the person's got a red face and they've just been for a run, yeah? All right, makes sense? Now, if you were to see dryness in a part of the face, what might that indicate? Yes, dehydration. And what other nutrient might be deficient?
Essential fatty acids.
There we go, thank you. So essential fatty acids, excellent. If we were to see redness in the area of the face, what might that indicate? Inflammation and overactivity. Overactivity. So for instance, if you saw it over the heart area, that would make sense that we might be thinking there might be some issues with hypertension, hey? Yeah. And if you were to see, actually we'll talk about the kidneys a bit later on, whenever we see pimples, always think about toxin accumulation in that area, okay? So it's like just what we were talking about earlier with the signs. First we assess what the sign means, and then we establish whereabouts it's found, and we often try and find those connections between the two where possible, okay? So I think that covers pretty much everything. Oh, actually that's one good point I should mention. Always remember too that when you're going through and writing down and noting these assessments, and iridology, etc. as well, that we wouldn't just base our conclusions on some signs, okay? You want to always be bringing them together as a kind of a complex. So for instance, if you saw a sign in the iris or if you saw a sign on the face, that would not be the reason why you would then go and prescribe whatever. Okay, you need to be going and looking at the body systems, maybe doing some of the physical assessments that you're going to be learning tomorrow, and bringing that all together as a beautiful conclusion. Okay, you can see why we're doing that. Yeah, good. So I'm going to bring up a couple of facial analysis charts now, and these might be ones that perhaps you might want to add to your forms. Yeah, this one's quite good for people who are those sort of visual type learners. Because it's got all these lovely colours. For me, it kind of annoys me because I have to keep looking down to remind myself what the colours represent. But for other people, that works really, really well. So when we're looking at this particular chart, we can see here is where the spleen is represented. And then over here, we've got liver. Gallbladder is below the eyebrows. So if you ever see people with kind of like a red rash under the eyebrows or eczema, always look at gallbladder. Pancreas, stomach, heart. And then we were talking earlier about kidneys, yep, so kidney bags, but this is also about general intestinal function. And then through here we've got lungs, and this is a colon bulge, and then we've got stomach and intestines. Okay, so a bit like the zone therapy and those other things that you're learning, there's always a chart, and it tells us about how the body is working and what areas are needing support. So any questions about this particular chart?
That's another one we can just flick an email through to you.
Absolutely,
Yeah. It's going to be a list of them.
I'm used to it. Now this one is from Kushi. It's from Kushi, and it's actually a good one. I like it because it's a bit more detailed. And you can see over here that we've got bladders represented at the top. So when people are starting to bulge, sometimes it's worth looking at how the bladder is functioning. And then through here we've got large intestine and small intestine. Again, liver is represented here. Spleen is still here. In his one, he also mentions the sclera, the whites of the eye. So you can see on this side, on the right-hand side, we've got liver and gallbladder, and then over here is spleen and pancreas. And what else is different? Corners of the mouth, duodenum. Okay. So has anybody here had angular stomatitis? And you have cracks in the corner of your mouth that just won't heal? Yeah. And so usually what's that a sign of? You know?
Something in my joint.
Yeah, so it can be related to a deficiency of often iron or some of the B vitamins, yeah. But if that's not fixing it, what you might want to look at is how exactly the duodenum is working. So, you know, often this is relating to insufficient bile secretions, etc. So you need to go and have a look at, bicarbonate. So what you need to go and often have a look at is pancreatic secretions can assist it, and maybe that'll fix the problem. Down here we've got represented the sexual area. See, it's quite a large area. It goes all the way along the chin and then up and across. Through here is bronchi just through here. So actually, sexual area is through here. And then bronchi is just there. And the rest of them are all pretty much the same. So any questions about this one? No? Who likes which?
I like the colour.
You like the colour? Yeah. Prettier? So again, what we're going to do now is we are going to go through all these different photos, and luckily we've got the lights off and those curtains down. Can you see that? Or is it easier to look at your own pictures? Yeah. Bit tricky. Would it be better if we had the lights on and you could see your pictures a little better? It's okay? Alright. So what I want you to do again is just to call out wherever you see some signs of dysfunction. Okay? So looking at the person on the left, what do we notice there?
I can see it under the lip.
Just here?
Yeah.
Acne? Yep. Very good.
And mole.
And what area is that? Yep, reproductive area. Good. What else? The moles, I think someone mentioned out. Yep.
The chin also looks a little bit red too, I just see.
The lips are looking quite red. Is that what you just said?
I just had the chin.
The chin.
Kind of just see in the photo that it's red.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Lower than quite really.
They are, and
Is it him or is it?
yeah. So you want to think about the culture, etc. Because this is obviously an Asian woman, and they tend to have bigger lips often. Yep. And so you can tell that from the coloration of the lips as well. What else? There's one more thing.
Lower than quite really. Testing, small testing.
Yep. What was that?
Does the mole mean anything?
Potentially. Have a look at her health history and see if there's any links. There's one more sign.
Is there a grey area around her lip? Is that
Yeah,
a anything? Is that
She's got a little bit of a moustache.
yeah, is that
Okay, so hirsutism. Yeah. So basically, hirsutism, she's got unusual hair growth on the top lip. Yeah. No, it's female. So we see this commonly in what condition?
polycystic?
That's right. So polycystic ovarian syndrome.
One of
Because
the
they've got high.
methylations.
Pardon?
One of the methylations.
It's basically to do with your high testosterone levels. Now, I guess when you look at this combined with this, there is a connection. So we're thinking about hormones, we're thinking about liver function, we're thinking about the reproductive system.
So they just need just little alerts, aren't they?
Yeah.
Okay, so
That's right.
some more questions and
That's it, exactly right. So how is the liver affecting hormonal balance? Yep, so through the, we're getting, how do we get rid of the excess hormones? What's secreted?
Sweat, blood, urine.
Bile. Okay, so remember your bile that gets released from the liver and then into the gallbladder contains those excess hormones. So if the liver isn't able to move bile out or produces low quality or low amounts of bile, then often there becomes this imbalanced picture. And you've got to remember too that waste from the bile can also be reabsorbed from the bowel. Okay, so what's two foods that you can eat together that will stop this occurring? So we need the food that stimulates the release of bile, which is, well, yes, but think of macronutrients. What What causes the release of bile from the gallbladder? Fat, good. Okay, then we need to have another macronutrient, which is basically fibre, to collect it all and hold it and create an insoluble matrix, as Marie Middlestead, my old nutrition teacher, used to call it, so that it can't be reabsorbed from the bowel and then cycled back to the liver. Okay, so that's really important to remember, that fibre and fat together. So that's where we have wholemeal crackers with avocado, you know, all those sorts of things. All right.
Can I ask?
Of course.
With that sort of upper lip here,
Yes,
is age relevant?
for sure.
Because working as a hairdresser
Yep.
and dealing with that, it's ridiculously common.
Yeah, it really is.
So
Often,
is it a case that they all have issues, or is it just because it's an age and a
Maybe a
natural?
hormonal thing, wouldn't it?
yeah.
Like the hormone drops off as.
So you're dropping off your estrogen and your progesterone, and so sometimes that can lead to things like your testosterone imbalanced in. So you'll notice a lot more that are over 45, 50 years of age start to get a lot more hirsutism.
Even younger,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, makes sense, doesn't it? We're not really helping our hormones to work and be balanced as they should. So when we're looking at this picture here, what do you notice? The bagginess.
Shininess.
Yep, shininess, great. And can you see the bags? Someone else just mentioned that as well. But can you see these actually two bags? Well done, yes. So what's the first bag going to relate to? Kidneys. What's the second one? General intestinal function. Okay, good, very good. What else can we see here?
Swollen cheek.
Yeah, so potentially, or it could be that's just the way their face is structured. What else is on that cheek though? Yeah, some more acne. Okay, and what area does the cheeks relate to? Lungs. Okay, so we know that the kidneys are struggling, we know that the intestines are struggling, and we also know that there's something going on with lungs. So we've kind of hit three of the key excretory organs, haven't we? So we really need to think about waste elimination for this kind of person. Yeah. Now, when you see somebody who has soft bags underneath their eyes, that can be an indication that they are drinking too much water. But I've also seen it in people who are dehydrated, so it can go either way. All right, so it could be too much or it could be too little. If they are hard, then that tends to indicate that they're more of fatty deposits. Okay, so sort of lots of fatty deposits. So you'd want to look at how much fat they're having, the kinds of fats they're having in their diet, etc. And if you see that there is a purplish kind of coloration to those bags, do you remember what purple indicates? Blood. Stagnation. Well done. So you have remembered. All right, so blood stagnation. So again, we want to get that blood moving, yeah? If it's sunken as well, that's another sign of dehydration. You know, sometimes you get those people who have quite sunken under eyes. Okay. And of course, we've got a kidney on the left and the right sides of our bodies, don't we? And our eyes can also correlate with the same kidney.
What if you've only got one kidney?
Then you're probably more likely to see signs in that eye, potentially, but maybe not. It just depends.
Of the one that you've got or the one that's not there?
Could be either way, but I would be imagining the one that is there would be showing more signs, possibly of overwork.
Yeah.
But could be wrong. Could be wrong. Do you know somebody who has one?
Hey.
Well, that'll be interesting to look at later. Can you remind me when we do your facial analysis? Thank you. That'd be great. All right, let's go to the next one.
Yeah. A kidney's on the
So what do we see in this person on the left? What would be some sensible things to ask first before we start making this? Has she just gone for a run? Excellent. Anything else?
Even if they're just hot.
Sunburn? Yeah. All those sorts of things. And often you will have your clients coming running to you, I'm so sorry, I couldn't find a park. So always check those sorts of things first. But where are we seeing redness?
Cheeks and nose.
Yeah, that's right. Cheeks, nose, and a little bit on the chin as well. So again, we're thinking about redness, we're thinking about inflammation, we're thinking about overactivity.
Is it a man or a woman? Because
Woman.
okay, so is it pixelated?
Probably.
Or is that stubble?
Oh, that, yes. No, that's pixelation, sorry. Good question though.
It's hard when you can't see the whole face because you can't
That's right, bring it all into relativity. So how about this guy over here? What can we see here? So red, and that's quite common with the elderly too. You often notice it's quite weepy and red just through here.
Oh, it's drooping.
So that, yep, it's droopy and it's quite swollen through that whole kidney area, okay?
Swollen across the top of the.
And just down here too, so again we can see that general intestinal bag as well. What was that one, Kelly?
Swollen across the top of the eyelid too.
Yes, definitely swollen through here, and actually even up through here as well, going into gallbladder. Yep. What else can we see?
The whites of the eyes really bloodshot.
Oh yes, and they're actually quite brown and murky looking as well too. And you know, the sclera is a fantastic way to show a person's health status, okay? And often when, has anybody here done detoxing? Yeah, and everybody goes, oh, you look amazing. And it's really because the whites of your eyes are sparkling, and that just makes everything else look much more bright and shining, all right? So really observe that when you're seeing people, even those simple little observations can be super helpful. So yes, we've certainly got a lot again going on in these eliminatory organs and a lot of heat and inflammation. So you would need what kind of foods? Cooling, great, excellent. What about this guy on the left? Red nose. What does that remind you of, that kind of nose? Alcoholism. Yeah, very much. So you'll often note that their nose will be kind of mushroom-like. So red, it'll be swollen, the pores will be enlarged, often it can be hairy as well too, but it's this general picture of kind of like an enlarged, particularly lower part portion of the nose. Okay. Yes, so he's got, what are they called again?
Something lines, love lines.
No, colon bulge. Colon bulge, that's what they are called. Now, think about when you're an alcoholic and you're spending a lot of time at the pub, what sort of foods would you be generally eating? Yeah. That's right. So lots of bread, lots of pastries, lots of hot, fat, salty chips and other deep fried foods. So it would make sense, wouldn't it, that we've got quite a colon bulge perhaps occurring here as well. And when you are drinking a lot of alcohol, what's the main, shall we call it, nutrient that you would get from alcohol?
Sugar.
Thank you. And how does sugar get deposited? As fat. And whereabouts is that fat generally deposited? Heart. All around this whole area too. Think about the big beer gut that they often are proudly displaying, leaning on the the bench of the bar. Okay, so when we're thinking about how this area relates to stomach and also heart, can you see how it would make sense that the nose would enlarge and look quite fatty looking? Yeah? Because we've got a lot of fat sitting around these organs, and that's why they are truly unhealthy and having lots of health implications. Yeah. Okay, well done. What about this young fella?
Is it red?
Is it acne or is it broken capillaries?
So it's red over the what area?
And has rich.
Yep. So stomach area of the nose. Yeah. If you look at it, it's sort of around here. Can you see that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's still quite
Yes.
red there too.
Little blackhead there.
Yeah.
And was that what you were asking, Kirsty?
I was just saying, is it broken capillaries or is it acne?
It's acne. He's been having a good pick, I'd say. And you can see them also around through this area here in the bronchi area as well. Okay, so he's a teenager. And what do teenagers often love to eat lots of? Junk food. Yeah, lots of carbohydrates. And it makes sense, doesn't it? You know, they're hanging out at the mall with their mates, they're got their first job and they've got a bit more freedom and a bit more money to spend on whatever they want to. So this is not unsurprising to see that, you know, this kind of poor fats and also the amount of refined carbohydrates they're eating are implicated in acne. But also there are other reasons why teenagers are more prone to acne. Hormones, yeah. And so where there's high testosterone, there's high sebum release, okay? So you've got that going on as well. And everything's just trying to get into balance. So if you were wanting to assist this teenager to eat more healthy, what would be your primary way of motivating him?
It's going to fix his skin.
Appearance.
because he wants to get himself a girlfriend maybe, or a boyfriend, whichever way it goes. But yeah, work with the ego. Often that seems to be the one that works the best. And you can do simple things. I mean, obviously changing the diet's going to help. If more of an alkalizing, anti-inflammatory diet, more raw foods, those sorts of things. Mum and dad will have some control perhaps over breakfast and dinner. Lunchtime will be where, and snacks will be where you need to motivate him to make the changes. Yeah, so also another tip that I learned years ago from a dermatologist, and he said, you know, one of the best things you can do, aside from all the other things that we're supposed to recommend, is just to get someone to get a flannel boiling hot with water and put it over their face as kind of like a steam, but also to wash all the sebum off, and to do that once or twice a day. And I've done that for years now with clients, and I've seen people with terrible cystic acne just from doing that and nothing else. Their problem has corrected. So it just shows you how bringing that warmth and that blood flow to the area, clearing away the waste, because we touch our hands so many times a day as well. Just those simple little techniques can be really life-changing.
You said boiling hot water, obviously not burning.
Oh, sorry, let me clarify. Put it under the tap, get it nice and hot, so you can, you know, wring it out, but not...
It really works.
It does.
Yeah,
Yeah, you tried it.
Yeah, my teenager did it in hair, long cycles. Amazing.
Well done. Good stuff. Neat to see, eh? So, yeah, those little simple tricks. All right, let's go to the next pictures. So what about this guy on the left here?
Worry line.
Yes, I call them the I want lions. We often see them in our driven career people. I've got some myself. I'm sure there might be a few others here. But they've also got another name. It's called liver lines. Liver lines. Okay, and you can also tell because the skin looks quite yellowed. Can you see that in the picture?
Jaundice.
Yeah. So jaundice is obviously the other end of the scale, but even anywhere on the body that you see yellow, it could be the palms of the hands, it could be the soles of the feet, it could be aspects of the face, you know, look out for those colorations. Yeah. And what about him? Yes, good spotting. So when we've got eyebrows that don't go all the way down, what can that indicate?
Adrenal or thyroid?
Thyroid. Good. So hypothyroidism, often the last third of the eyebrow can be absent. What else?
The line that comes up from,
Yep.
yeah, that's a bit of an abnormal wrinkle, really.
It is, isn't it? And what area is that over? Spleen. Small intestine would be up here. Yeah. And what about this too? The start of a bit of a colon bulge as well, perhaps?
So what was the eyebrow again?
Yes, hypothyroid for the eyebrows. So I've put a few additional facial signs here. This is all stuff from your CP203 notes. If you've got somebody who gets those facial tics, you know, the eyebrow that goes ching, 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 or maybe it's down here, then definitely be looking at things like magnesium. Obviously anxiety is part of the picture, but then that makes sense, doesn't it? Because when we're anxious, we deplete ourselves of B vitamins, the vitamin C, and of course the magnesium as well too. Under the eyes, the darkness under the eyes, what are they? Fatigue. Yes, absolutely. Always ask that sensible question first, right, Dirk? And then we can think about what else? Adrenals.
Elimination of toxins.
Yeah. So the key things I would consider would be adrenals or adrenal fatigue, allergies, and then also parasites as well too. Okay. Talked about the puffy. Oh, here's a good one. Rash around the nose, and this is actually quite common. So often a sign of low B2 or B6. Talked about all the others there. Oh, now with we were talking earlier, weren't we, about the forehead, yeah, and how that person didn't have all three lines. So most people, when you're looking at their forehead, they will have three lines running across there. If they don't have some, or if there is a break in those lines, then it can indicate that there is issues with each area. So I'll read them out to you. If you're looking at the topmost line, that reflects spirituality. The middle one is ego or sense of self. And the lowest one is about physical actions and making money. So spirituality, ego or sense of self, physical actions and making money. So it might be fun to look at each other later on and see which ones perhaps you have breaks in or perhaps are absent in as well too. Okay.
Well, physical action.
There's also a really neat sign that you can look for in the ears for when you're looking for things like cardiovascular disease. Excuse my drawing. And it's a line that runs across like this, okay? And that is called Frank's line.
Does it sort of look like it's been stretched?
Yeah, it can look like it's been pinched, you know, like someone's folded it over and left a crease. And the deeper the line, the more
Is it on the
severe.
line?
Yeah,
Yes.
I've seen it.
The more severe the cardiovascular disease.
Can you get a few lines?
Yes, you potentially could, but it's a key one that you're looking for, one in particular, just running across from here and then down. Okay? So it might be worth drawing that, because even the
It's
doctors...
just because I noticed it on someone else, and I go up and look at the
Yeah, that's right. Okay. So even the doctors have a look at that one, so it's a good one to hang on to. So when we're looking at the tongue, it's the same types of stuff we're looking out for. It's how are certain parts of the body working? Are there nutrient deficiencies that we need to be aware of, etc. And remember how I said to you earlier, that the signs on the tongue can change from day to day. Okay, so who's going to go out and start scraping their tongue each morning now? Good.
Can I just verify?
I'm
Sorry.
Yeah,
I'm
verify
having a
away.
moment. Was it, you scrape your tongue after you took it?
So yeah, so have a look,
Yeah.
scrape,
Okay.
then brush your teeth.
Okay.
Yeah, that's usually what I do.
Sure.
Have a look and see what I've been up to. Have I been naughty or nice? Now, we've got some pictures here. That's the same chart that we were looking at earlier. This is the one obviously in your case taking notes, so I don't think I need to go over this again. Everybody's okay with that? This is the best example that I could find of what I would consider to be a healthy tongue. There are some problems with it though. I can't see the back of the tongue because your mouth is closed, so there might be signs there. And also there's one other thing that I said to look out for on a healthy tongue.
The white spots.
The little bit of white coating, a small amount of white coating, okay? Because that's an indication of, can you remember?
Elimination.
Toxin elimination, very, very good, well done. And also,
The palpebral and digestion.
yeah, some basically digestive fire, okay? So we want to see that there's breakdown and elimination of waste, and also breakdown of foods.
I was just wondering if the palpebral on the tongue are a little bit swollen.
There are a couple, but it's not too bad. You'll see some quite severe signs of papillae, so you'll know that the difference very shortly actually. Okay, so when you are wanting to assess somebody's tongue, what you need to do is to obviously ask them to stick their tongue out as far as they can, okay? Remember too that this is probably the part of the body they least like showing you, apart from sometimes the abdomen. So, just try and be as natural with as you can, And one of the things that I do is I send a chart through to my clients before they come in for their first consultation. And in it has, this is some of the physical assessments you might see me doing. So that they come in knowing, oh, she's going to look at my iris, she's going to have a look at my tongue, she might do some Curie testing, and it all feels a little bit more normal, and I don't have to waste my time going through and explaining things in as much detail, okay? So you might want to think about doing something like that too. I'm happy to send you the copy of mine that I use, and you can cut and paste, why recreate the wheel, it's not hard. So again, just email me. But they might sort of go, oh, I'm so embarrassed, I'll just sit and just go, don't worry about it, just stick it out, show me, just be really natural with it, okay? So they put their tongue out as far as they can, have a good look, think to yourself, okay, note down a couple of things, draw or write them in, can I have another look? But don't let them have the tongue out for longer than 15 seconds, because sometimes that can change signs that you'll see on the tongue, okay? And it also gives them a chance to just kind of have a rest and relax the tongue back into the mouth, yeah? All right. Now, if you were to look at the tongue and you notice that it's shaking or it twitches, okay, what do you think that might be a sign of?
Anxiety or magnesium.
Very good. Anxiety or low magnesium. Get used to looking out for how shaky it is too. Okay, so you might want to do some extra ticks or something just to show that it was exceptionally shaky. So when it comes in next time, you can see has there been an improvement or not. Okay. If you see a lot of froth on the tongue, that can indicate lots of flatulence, okay? So it's always a fun one to ask them about, and every single time I've asked somebody, I've been right, they've had lots of flatulence that day, so it seems to be really accurate actually. All right, so frothiness, look for gas. So here come the tongues. So what did a red tongue relate to earlier? Heat, fire element, good. And we can see here, this would be on the low end of what I would consider to be a red tongue. You're going to see them much redder, but this is a good example of what to start looking at, when to expect it to be looking red. Okay?
Is it slightly curved, that tongue as well?
Curved to the side? Yes, it is. It's off to one side slightly, which can indicate it's a cranial nerve 10 or 12.
It looks as though it's rolling slightly down around the edges.
Could also be the way the person's taken the photo, so we'd want to check that too. But yep, good pointing out. Okay, so look for heat, look for inflammation. The other things too that sometimes you'll see with these sorts of tongues is, say for instance it was quite what we call a beefy tongue. So instead of being concave, it's convex. Okay, so it's like a cow tongue. If anybody's ever seen a cow tongue, it's quite swollen looking and bright red. Then that can be a sign of adrenal fatigue. Okay, so red and beefy, adrenal fatigue. If you have a red tip to the tongue, but the rest of the tongue is looking pretty normal, so particularly red tip, that's vitamin B3. But it can also be a sign of a delicate heart, okay? And that could be emotional, it could be physiological, obviously could be the two together.
B3 can reduce cholesterol, so I wonder if it's a link there.
What was that?
B3 can help reduce cholesterol, so I don't know if it's a link there. Or not.
Well, interestingly, it also helps with liver detox pathways as well, so that would tie in beautifully. Good point. If you see somebody who has lots of red spots on the tip of the tongue as well, it looks like a strawberry tongue, they call it. That's a sign of vitamin B12 deficiency, and that one again is one that I have high correlation with, so really do look out for that.
Have you seen white spots?
Yep.
Yep.
We're going to look at some a bit later, I think, so. Yep. Now, how about this pale tongue? What are we finding here? What is that going to indicate? Blood deficient, thank you. Very good. And sort of cold picture as well too. So remember we talked about how we've got to build up the blood and nourish the blood. But also again, this is a great sign of anemia. Okay, so anemia. Also, if you were to look at the gums and notice they were quite pale, or if you do the capillary refill test on your nails, which we're going to talk about soon, when you press on it, and check how quickly the blood returns. Or another good one is if you get them to do this with their hands. Everybody do this themselves. And so you push the palm forward, and what you're looking at to see is that the lines on the palm are red. If they're not, if they're pale, that could also be a sign of anemia. Okay. Now, the next one we've got here is a sign of, this is a coating that is kind of a yellowy brownish colour. So what was the meaning of a yellow coating from earlier? Liver, yeah, is that what you said? And, sorry guys, I can't hardly hear you because you're so far back now.
Liver and gallbladder.
Gallbladder, yep, sure. And heat, remember, because it dries up fluids. Yeah, so everything gets a lot more concentrated. Yeah. So certainly have a look at the liver and how we can support it here. There's an indication that there is stagnation in the intestines. So those sorts of people who have been perhaps chronically constipated. Could also be that they're dehydrated, and again that ties in with that heat picture, they're needing more fluids. Yeah, so dehydration. And again, this also ties in with fat metabolism as well too, which makes sense because it's such a liverish sign, doesn't it? Now this one over here I really want you to take notice of, okay? Because it's a severe pathology sign. So can you see how we've got these black marks on the tongue?
Red tip as well.
Yes, it does. Good spotting. So if you ever see black marks on the tongue, and it doesn't necessarily need to be in this location, I've seen them here, and I've seen spots of them over the tongue, that's a sign of severe pathology somewhere in the body. Usually it's kidneys, but it can be other places too. So time to start using your naturopathic detective skills and going through those body systems with a fine-tooth comb, all right, and then referring when needed.
And who's on the heart and lung area?
Well, you could certainly look at whereabouts on the tongue chart it is, but that doesn't always correlate. Okay, good question though. So what was this meaning of a white tongue coating? Yeah, well done, well done. And also, what constitution would it be?
Cold.
Cold, very good. So we've got cold constitution, and this one here, obviously, it's getting quite thick. If it was also patchy, that would definitely be candida to go looking for. But it was also a sign of intestinal putrefaction. Okay, so intestinal putrefaction. And it's something that you will often see with people who have allergies. So again, for those that do have allergies in the class, you know, eat the foods that you know aren't working for you, and then have a look at your tongue that night and then check it in the morning and see if you can notice the change. You know? Quite interesting. What else can we see on this tongue? Yeah, really advanced, isn't it? And can you see how it's more, not be to do with the way that the lighting is, but can you see how it seems more obvious on this side?
Yeah.
Okay, and that's also worth noting. If you ever notice it's worse on one side than the other, okay, and then you could go and have a look at that chart that we had, the Ayurvedic tongue chart, the one that was much more detailed, because that looks at both sides of the tongue and what the meaning is. Now, those cracks, we're going to talk a bit about them soon, so I'll just hold off on that for now. So this one over here is something we call a geographic tongue. And the way I kind of remember it is, imagine I'm out in space, looking down at planet Earth, and I can see all the different continents, and then I can also see, obviously, the sea. So you can see these little continents, yeah? So that's a geographic tongue. Obviously, we've got some white coating here, and can you also see how raw this area down here is looking? Yeah? So when you see someone with a geographic tongue, look for how their digestive function is working. They're usually not secreting enough of the digestive juices. And so what would be some symptoms that you might see with a person who has that kind of problem? Burping, good. Bloating. Bloating is key. Yes, what else?
Constipation.
Yep, constipation. Fatigue after the meal. Wanting to lie down. Heartburn, indigestion. It's often more of a, not quite so common, I wouldn't say. So those are some things to look out for, okay? And we're going to be looking at a number of signs today that indicate when we need to be supporting that area of our body, and it is so common because, of course, we're all bolting our food, sitting in front of the TV, squashed up on our couches, you know, not eating correctly, eh? All right, so yeah, definitely have a look at the insufficient digestive secretions. Now, for some people, this can be something they've had their whole life, so just be aware that it might not be able to be changed. So always ask, have you always had a tongue like this? Okay. But for others, it is definitely a sign. Yep. Now, what I've seen many times is someone having one or two spots, often on the sides of the tongue, almost like what they've got, in fact, just like what they've got here, okay? That I've found is often commonly where there has been an issue with, they've been thrashing their body a bit, too much booze, and poor old liver's struggling. And it is amazing, like within 1 or 2 weeks of taking some really good liver herbs, those will disappear. That's how effective this type of stuff is. So always look at liver, and yeah. Okay.
Are those patches raised or are they just a different colour?
Well, they're basically where you can't see the coating. The coating is not showing up, so you can see the body of the tongue coming through. But this is definitely worth noting, this really raw area, and thinking about, well, we've got heart, we've got lungs, haven't we, in that area? We've also got this impeaching onto stomach, and it's looking quite raw and sore. So I'd be certainly having a look at those areas and seeing if they needed to be calmed down and reduce the inflammation, and do a bit of healing in those areas too. So do you remember what the curled up sides meant from this morning? You guys had carbohydrates for lunch, didn't you? I can tell. You've got nun eyes.
Stagnant liver.
Well done. Little stagnation.
I was trying to do it.
So that's what we're looking for here, is these curled up sides. So we always want to support that liver detox pathway. And a lot of the B vitamins are needed for liver detox too, so always have a look at that if that's a supplement that's perhaps also required. Can you see with this little young one here how we've got some quite obvious signs?
Do we see that very often?
No, you don't.
Because I have a fear of those things with lots of holes in them, so I can't actually look at it. It's freaking me out. I know it sounds really weird. It's okay. I don't ever see that.
Is that what you're talking about, story?
That would be the kind of thing you would see, but it would be down here, yeah, on the tip. Kids can be incredibly unwell and not show tongue signs. So if you see signs on their nails or their tongue or their face, take note, okay? Because things are potentially quite serious, okay? So for us to be seeing a very thick, creamy, white-yellow coating, and then these papillae that Kirsty's freaking out about all over the tongue, it's certainly worth taking note. So with the raised papillae, that's generally a sign of B vitamin deficiency and also inflammation as well.
That reminds me a bit of Kotola.
It does?
Right.
On the right? Okay.
She's got a really nasty cough and she's sounding very crinkly at the moment.
Well, this one's all to do with when you've got these sorts of swollen papillae, it's all about infection, often all the time. Infection or inflammation. So that would tie quite well, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it showed up before the cough got really bad.
So it was like the body was trying to warn. And so yeah, so with these ones in particular, these types of papillae, have a look at also lower intestinal congestion. I've said B vitamins, haven't I?
Yeah.
And liver problems as well too, which ties in nicely with that yellow tongue coating that we're talking about there. With this one over here, this is also something that you will often see with people who have allergies. Okay, so you just ask yourself or ask them, what is it that you've eaten or drunk in the last 24 hours that might have triggered this kind of sign?
I get that when I have really bad hay fever.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Here we go. So start tracking back and going, what have I eaten in the last 24 hours? Might be worth doing some allergy testing if you haven't already. What you'll see with some people, can't see it here, so I'll have to draw it for you. Hopefully we might see some today. Sometimes you see like one or two little bumps. They look a bit like ulcers, and they're right at the back of the tongue, usually on the sides. And you've really got to get them to push their tongue all the way out to be able to see them because they're right at the back. And I've been trying to find out for years what that can indicate, but the closest thing I can come to is that it just seems to be really linked in with kidney problems, which makes sense because it's over that kidney area. So yeah, you've got them this one.
I've always had those.
Have you?
Since I was a kid.
Have you got any issues with your kidneys?
Not that I know
History of fear and anxiety?
of. Yes.
So that ties in with kidneys, eh?
Yes, there was something about if they can't stick their tongue out very far.
Yes. Yep. So that's a magnesium deficiency sign. So if you can't stick your tongue out very far, magnesium deficiency sign.
Tongue visor.
Yep. That would also be something to sensibly look at. Nowadays they treat that really quickly, eh? Like as soon as basically within a day they cut the tongue, put them straight on mum's boob and stop crying straight away.
4 of my kids had that, and
Really?
one of them, his was very grown, so he can hardly put his tongue out at all because it's
it's regrowing and they've refused to cut it again because it's just regrowing every time.
Wow. I'm sure Lane was looking into that a while ago. There was some research connecting tongue-tiedness with high rate of cardiovascular disease. Good one to talk to Lane about. I'm sure
Some
there
people
was-
question the link with folic acid in pregnancy.
Oh, is it?
Like too much or too little?
Too much. Taking it as a synthetic supplement.
Linking to tongue
Increase more the rate of tongue-tied
Ah.
babies has gone up.
That's interesting, isn't it?
Well,
they're putting-
it's hard to get folic acid non-synthetic.
And everybody's put on folic acid now, no matter what age. It's
Mm.
crazy.
So
It's
that's
no longer
fine.
just for older women. And then they're keeping it on them throughout the pregnancy. Like, hello, you've missed day 28, 29. Spinal bifida is no longer a problem. The next ones that we've got here, this might freak you out too.
No, I'm okay with that.
You're
It's
okay
just
with
things that look like they have holes in them.
In them.
Apparently it's an actual phobia, I don't know, but it's, you know, people put those pictures on Facebook and they come up in your newsfeed and they put like a lotus
Yes.
seed and they put it over top of skin and it looks like they've got some kind of thing. Just can't. But I make it have cracks and like the raised one's fine.
Sorry, what is it called, Kirsty? What is it called?
I can't remember what the phobia is called, but there's an actual.
So just coming back to the pictures, sorry. So we've got over here a range of cracks. Now, when you when you were looking at the tongue, do you remember what I said the cracks were before when we were in the previous class? Dehydration, dryness, good. Now, when you're looking at somebody and perhaps they have a crack that actually runs all the way down the tongue, okay? What that can be an indication of is either that they are a very sensitive person, or if there is cracks that perhaps only are found over perhaps part of the tongue, say for instance like there and there, well that tells us about issues with spinal health. So the spine is represented from here, neck, down to sacral. And this also has a really high rate of correlation. So if you want to freak somebody out, next time they come in, you look at their tongue and you see perhaps a crack here, say, have you got any problems with your neck? How do you know that? Because I looked at your tongue, all right? So that's a good one to know. And this one's interesting because with this person in particular, I actually know this person, what they had, can you see how it kind of breaks up here? And so yes, they were an emotional person, but they also had problems with their sacral area, okay? It was quite often going out. And then can you see how it pops off to the side here? It kind of goes, choo. The cervical spine, there was a subluxation there as well. So that's how accurate it can be. Which is pretty cool, isn't it? Right. So play around with this stuff because it's fascinating. If you see somebody who has this kind of furrowed tongue that we've got here, again, this is one that we need to ask them, were you born with this tongue? Because 5% of people are actually born with this type of tongue. Otherwise, it is indicating that they have had chronic intestinal problems. So chronic intestinal problems and severe dryness, okay? Severe dryness. To be honest, the people that are the 5%, what I tend to find is that there is also ancestral issues with the GI tract. So keep an open mind that it might not just be something that their tongue has always been like, it could be a problem that's been passed on. But yeah, it's just worth always checking that first anyway, okay? If you see that there is just a few cracks and furrows, again, look at the area in which they're located. Think about that, that heat and overactivity and dryness picture that we talked about earlier. But it can also be a sign of blood sugar imbalances and a malabsorption of B vitamins. So blood sugar imbalances and malabsorption of B vitamins. Has anybody ever seen furry tongue? Furry tongue? I've seen a tongue that had, do you remember we saw that tongue earlier that had that kind of brown sludge that was kind of creeping out? So imagine a tongue that had the brown sludge and then there was also green sludge and then there were these hairs that were growing out that were
Actual hairs.
like, they looked like hairs, but they weren't, about that long, growing out in different places in the tongue. I've also seen it in one patch and then there's been hairs. Okay, that's another candida sign. Okay, that's severe problems with that whole GI tract. Okay. Here's some additional mouth signs that are taken from CP203. Remember we talked about the cracking, the angular stomitis? So the low iron, the low B vitamins. Mouth ulcers, always going to look at iron, you're always going to look at zinc, you're always going to look at folic acid and a number of the B vitamins as well. Bleeding gums, vitamin C and bioflavonoids are key. Where do we find our bioflavonoids in food?
Colours.
It's in your citrus fruit, particularly in the white and the pith. That's where we get a lot of bioflavonoids. Burning or sore tongue. Has anybody come across anybody with a burning tongue yet?
I had that.
Burning mouth syndrome, yeah? Oh, interesting. I've only come across it once in practice. It was so interesting. And what it says here about B vitamin deficiency is really true. Often it is severely low B vitamins. But it was also, in particular with this person that I was working with, it was a lot of suppressed anger. And or when they did speak and release that toxic kind of waste, that anger, it was so awful that it was affecting them in that way. Okay, so it was like about suppression, but it was also about the poor release. So it's worth looking at the emotions. Did you manage to get it fixed?
No, I just still get it every now and again, but at the back of my throat too, it's all red, like it's been an ongoing issue. So I've been tested and I've got like an acid reflux. And I think that might have been partly affecting.
Absolutely. That would be, that makes sense. But then when we get acid reflux, that's often about that, basically that valve that isn't shutting off correctly. So that can also tie in with under secreting acids, because our body will be churning that food over and over for so long that it becomes weakened. Yeah, so there's many different avenues you can go down. It'll be interesting to see how you go with that, treating that. Is there any other key ones to mention? I think we've covered the key ones there. All right, and so nails, again, we are looking at particular parts of the body and also particular nutrient deficiencies. Now, when you are looking at each nail, they can also have meanings. So the emotional links are from Louise Hay, and the different parts of the body are from Kushi, okay? And this is something that I was raised by with my mother. She was a great proponent of Louise Hay, so you know, every time you hurt yourself, it was, what's going on with this area, and it's driving you crazy. But now I'm so grateful for it because it's all kind of drilled into my brain. So with the thumb, this is all to do with intellect and worry, okay? So intellect and worry. And interestingly, it's all about the brain, the reproductive organs, and also the excretory system as well too. The index finger is about ego and fear. What do we do with our index finger a lot? Don't we? We do a lot of you said, I said, I'm right, you're wrong. So a lot of ego and fear comes into this one. And this is tied in with liver and gallbladder. Makes sense because we've got that kind of angry nature, don't we? And also the nervous system as well too. Middle finger, well, we all know what we do with that when we're angry, don't we? And so this is also about anger and sexuality, and it reflects what's going on in the heart and the circulation. Now the ring fingers, so this is all obviously unions and grief, yeah? And it's interesting how often I've been working with clients who have problems with their relationships, and there will be problems specifically with this finger. And you can see there that it relates to reproductive organs and the hormonal system. The final one is family pretending. So think about, you know, how people always wear their family signet rings on this finger. Okay, it might help you to remember. So family pretending, and this is all to do with the digestive system. So why I raise this now is because as we go through and start looking at each other's nails, what you're going to notice is that often signs aren't found on all the fingers. They might be found on a specific finger. So what's really helpful is to come back to this kind of information and go, so what is that linked to? Because you will usually find amazing correlations. And if I see you doing this on your case taking, I'm going to be wowed, okay? So what I want to see you guys doing increasingly with your client case taking, that as you write down information, you go through it later on and you write in the margins or next to it, you know, what does this sign mean? what could be some treatment ideas? Because that's going to help you to develop your evaluation summary really quickly. It's going to help you to come back and build a treatment plan really quickly. It's just one of those smart ways of bringing practice, and I still use that kind of mode when I'm in clinic now, and I'll just highlight things so I come back and go, oh yeah, that's right, got to cover that, got to cover that. Okay, so little top tip for you guys, start working on with your client case taking. All right, so look at the fingers and what they might be linked to. So let's look at some more pictures. So here we've got an example of a white nail. Can you see that there? Now look at your own nails. Well, you can't look at mine today, but look at your own nails and just observe what colour it generally is. It's kind of a nice pink, isn't it, for most fingers? Some of you might find all sorts of variations. Try not to dorsiflex your nails because that changes the colour. Okay? So whenever you're analysing somebody's nail, what you do is you say, could you just put your hand gently down on the desk for me, please?
So it's changed quite a lot.
It does,
Yeah.
a lot. Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Oh my god, they're all white.
That's it. So just get them to rest them down and have a good nosy. All right. So when we're seeing somebody who has that white nail bed, this is where we are looking at things like anemia and circulation. And also can tie in with liver diabetes and mellitus as well too. So liver diabetes, mellitus and anemia or poor circulation. Where we go for time? Let me just check the time, won't be a second. So 2:20, that is, I'm just confirmed that's the right time. Okay, so we're going to need about. So what I might do is we might just go through a couple of these and then we'll take a little bit of a break, okay? So we'll have a little bit of an earlier one. Now when you've got the half red and the half white, so see how this is kind of like a half red, and it could be half white or it might be sort of a pinkish colour, okay? So that can be an issue with your liver or your kidneys, some sort of disorder in those areas. Now what I'd like you all to do now is do that, what I told you not to do before, which is to dorsiflex your hand. And what I want you to note is, can you see how when you look at your nails, how part of it will be pink and part of it will be white, just like we have in this picture here? Can you all see that? That's protein banding, okay? That's deficient proteins, which is what we're talking about here. Okay, so if you ever want to get a picture of what it looks like, that's what it looks like, all right?
When you're doing that, it doesn't mean you've got it, mate.
That's right. That's exactly
What
right.
if you can't see that when you're doing
Well, then, you know, you're just going to have to look at your neighbours. Or you can look at this picture.
That was deficient in protein.
Yes. Or maybe you're not breaking your proteins down well. Okay, so again, look at the digestive function there. Can also be a sign also of diabetes. Now, you can see the white banding over here too, but this is much more advanced. So this is the type of thing that you're looking for. And what you will often find is it might not be all fingers, it might be a few. So take good note of all fingers when you're looking at them, okay? Here's another example here of the pale nails with the white banding as well. So what would be a sensible question to ask if we saw somebody had yellow on their nails?
Do they smoke?
Do they smoke? Absolutely. Anything else?
You can get that sometimes if you don't apply nail polish, you don't do it.
Yes. Undercoat, yeah, exactly. Or acrylic nails, sometimes we'll get that as well too. What else?
fungal infection?
That tends to be more greeny brown, but yeah, good thinking though.
Did you just peel an orange?
Did you just peel an orange? Yes, good. And turmeric. Anything turmeric, it will get everywhere. So good questions asked, but otherwise it can be obviously an indication of problems with the liver, but also look at lymphatic congestion and diabetes again too. What colour do people go when they eat too many beta carotenes, like lots of carrot juicing? Orange. Good. Okay. Blue nails, what do you think might be sensible things to think about? Yep.
Sorry, what was that?
Hypothermia, that sort of stuff. But otherwise, if you see blue nails, or you know the moons on your nails, the little moons, lunulas. So if I was to draw it, getting lots of my drawings today, aren't you lucky? That's your moon. Okay, so if you've got blue nails or blue moons, that could be indicating that there's a problem with heavy metals. It can also be indicating there's a problem with circulation. If there is brown coloration to your nails, definitely look at fungals, but it also could be arsenic poisoning. Copper poisoning too, arsenic and copper.
Sorry, what was it?
Brown, fungal, arsenic or copper poisoning. And green nails, again, is potentially fungal, but it can also indicate serious emphysema. What's another thing you often see when you see fungal nails, particularly fungal toenails? I can hear, sorry, I'm just hearing mixtures. What was that?
Kind of breaking up.
They often do break up a bit, yeah.
Very thick in some cases, very thick.
Very thick, exactly. And they often have kind of like a white powdery substance underneath the nail. Okay, so that's often a really good one to look for as well too, as well as the colours that we've been discussing.
Is it for fungal?
That's for fungal, yeah. So go home and look at grandma's nails, or granddad's. Okie dokie. So here's the lunulas, or the moons, that I was wanting you to look at before. So what I'd like you to do is all take a look at your nails now and see how many lunulas do you have, and on each hand as well. So count them, and then I'm going to ask you to do a raise of hands. So how many people have 10? Yeah? Well done. So we've got Tanya's got 10. Anyone else? Anyone too, Michelle? Who's got 8?
My eyesight's so bad, I actually think so.
Yeah. Who's got 6?
I've got 8.
8 and then 6. Who's got 4? Yeah. And 2. Yeah. And the thing with lunulas too that are really interesting is that they come and they come and go day to day. So keep an eye out for them, and also obviously push back your cuticles too, because sometimes they can be hiding. Now, they can be indicating problems with the thyroid. It could be hypo, and it could also be hyper. A lot of the signs in the body can relate to either hypo or hyper, a bit like the goiter. Okay. But the other thing it can indicate is, and this is from Hectorman's book, low hydrochloric acid.
Oh, that's interesting.
That is a
So I have to take hydrochloric acid.
low what? Wow. And you had how many moons?
I have 6.
6.
Some are barely there. If you got technical, it would be like about
So some are quite
4
small.
and 2 smidgens.
Smudges. So that could be something to keep an eye on,
I was
eh?
being really generous with the 6.
All right. So, and again, we've already talked about the coloration of the moons too. But definitely look out for those because they are very helpful. If you notice that somebody has like a really large lunula on their thumb, or can anybody, I think there's some people here who you can see your little ones, eh? Because the little one is quite unusual to see. You don't always see that. And also the hand that is more dominant, that you use for writing, etc., it tends to have bigger moons, okay? So that's something to also note. But say for instance, if you notice for somebody that perhaps they have a large lunula on their thumb and it might also be enlarged or at least present on the little finger, then always look at the cardiovascular system, okay? It means that the heart is really working hard. So they'll be the people to just definitely be checking their blood pressure and perhaps their pulse as well, okay? What was the other sign that we worked out earlier that you can use to see if there's any issues with CBD? Yes, red nose, so overactivity of the heart, very good. What else? Tip of the tongue, great. One more. The line on the ear, what was his name? Frank's lines, well done. Okay, so there's lots of things we can look for, isn't there? Okay? Has anybody here got clubbing on the nails? So how you can check that is do this with your nails. Can we all do this? And what you're looking for is to see if the nail kind of goes straight up and down, or if it sort of rounds out like this parrot beak that you can see on that nail there. Has anybody got any?
I used to, but it's gone.
Oh, good.
I just had a completely flat, like the whole one side of my fingernail was kind of
Flat or rounded?
It was flat, so the opposite.
Okay, there's a bit of a different sign. So with clubbing, this is all to do with getting oxygen out to your peripherals, okay? So there might be problems with the lungs, or there could also be problems with the heart as well. So it's about oxygenation to the extremities. So always look at lungs and the heart, okay? And it's also an indication of inflammatory bowel disease. You see this quite a lot in elderly people, actually. Pitting. Has anybody here got pitting? So it looks like little pinpricks in the nail, like someone's got a, yeah, you know what I mean, eh? And that might be as much as this, or it might be just one or two, like we have over here. Now this is a sign that is acknowledged even by doctors, and it's considered to be indicating psoriasis, okay, which is an autoimmune skin condition. And it can actually be a early warning system, okay? So you might notice when you're looking at a client's nails that they have these starting, but they haven't got any signs of psoriasis yet. Always check the scalp, because often people don't realise, and it's these little scaly patches. That's an early one. And if you see that happening, it's time to get really serious with them, because coming back from an autoimmune condition, particularly like psoriasis, is not easy. You want to catch it while you can, okay? So true preventative health intervention here. So explain to them, this is a sign that is used, even considered even by doctors to be an indication of psoriasis. The fact that you have it, and I also know that you have allergies and whatever else going on, is telling me that your immune system is potentially about to go into an autoimmune state. We need to stop this, okay? So use it as a great learning tool. It's not like, it's like patches. You'll have these big bits that will come
a
out.
hole in your head?
No. No, we're not going to freak out Kirsty. No, it's more like a pat, because when you look at psoriasis,
Like cradle cap, sort of.
yeah, well, that could be even thicker than that. If you ever look at psoriasis patches, they're really thick, they're like a scab. Because the skin cell turnover has gone from 28 days to 3 days. Okay, so they just get these lesions. So imagine that on the scalp. Yeah. Whereas when you have dandruff, it's kind of like little bits that fall out, isn't it?
I've got pitting in my nails, and I get scabs on my head, which I've figured out is not dandruff.
It isn't?
Obviously. Yeah, it's just in patches
Yes.
here and there.
Time to take note. No more ignoring the early warning signals. She says I'm going into denial again. I can see it.
That's cool.
Okay, spooning, another one that you'll see a lot, particularly in the elderly as well. So for this one, sometimes it's not so easy to see. So perhaps just rub your fingers over each nail and just see if you can feel where there is a concave area on your nail. Okay, so it could be quite simple like this, where it's like a piece of the nail that is concave, or it could be quite severe like we have down here where the whole nail is actually being affected. This is all related to iron storage. So it could be that you are deficient in iron, or it could be that you have a condition called hemochromatosis.
Would this be the same in toenails?
Yep, you can often see signs in the toenails. So if someone is wearing nail polish, just ask to look at their toenails if they've not got it on there. Okay. So yes, iron basically is the key for this one. Now these next two, the brittle and the chip, peel, split, crack and break easily, they're all kind of falling under the same category. Is anybody here who's got nails that, you know, they can only grow to a certain length and then they split, or have any problems like that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well this one's for you, all right? So essentially what we're seeing here is a number of particularly mineral deficiencies, okay? I used to get a lot of these sorts of nails happening, and then I started taking, you know, CMD minerals, the wool drops, and they are tough as now. You can feel my nails. Not that there's much there at the moment. See how tough they are? Yes. So, and bone broths as well too, yeah. What was the other thing? Bone broths, yeah. So bone broths, minerals, but you also want to have a good look too at silica particularly is key with any hair or nail problems, hair splitting as well. Vitamin C will also help, and essential fatty acids, which makes sense because it's often quite a dry looking condition, okay? This is also seen quite commonly with people who have thyroid disorders or going through menopause. And pretty much the same deficiency picture here. The only thing that I would add is proteins and a lack of hydrochloric acid. Okay, so proteins and a lack of hydrochloric acid. Anybody here who still bites their nails or maybe did when they were a kid?
It just stopped 6 months ago.
Oh, congratulations! Well done. It's not easy, is it? Got yourself a new addiction? Well done. So this one can be a deficiency of silica, and it's just the way that the body is trying to get more silica back in is by chewing the nails. But of course, it's also a nervous tick, isn't it? It's a way that we manage our emotions, and I know that there's been certain clients I've had where you often see this with, I don't know, for instance, kids that are going through their parents' divorce, and there's a lot of emotions going on, and they're just trying to hold it all in, okay? So sort of stuffing their hands in their mouth is a big sign that things aren't so good. So always delve into that and assist with flower essences, etc., wherever you can. So if the silica doesn't work, and actually silica 30C, the homeopathic, can be brilliant. So if I don't want to take the minerals, try the homeopathic. It's great.
Which one?
Silica 30C. So a lot of people will have this next one, which is the lines and the ridges. Yeah. So you might want to again have a look at your nails and just note, do I have lines running down? And is it on all fingers or is it just on some?
On both thumbs.
Both thumbs, okay. So worry, remember? The mind, all those mental links.
Little fingers?
Yes, family and pretending. Yeah. Oh yeah. So, well then for you, because she's got all of them, it might be just that this is tying in with a malabsorption of nutrients picture. Okay, that's the key thing. Malabsorption of nutrients. There's another tongue sign that is indicated by. What was that? Scalloping. Very good. Good. All right. Sometimes you'll see with people that instead of the lines going down the nail, that they might actually go across the nail, and often these ones too, you perhaps might need to feel them. Okay, so this is related to where there has been a severe trauma, and it could be a health trauma, but it could also be an emotional trauma as well too. Okay, and when you're looking at somebody's nail, generally for a nail to grow from the quick through and out, it's about 5 months. You might want to write that down. So 5 months for an entire nail to grow. So if you were looking at somebody's nails and you observed that they had perhaps a transverse groove at, I don't know, perhaps 2/3 of the way out or something like that, you can sort of say to them, you know, 2 or 3 or 4 months ago, or whatever you work it out to be when you calculate it by 5, was there anything emotionally traumatic going on for you, or any health complaint that you had that was quite severe at that time? And again, you'll get high correlation with that one as well. Okay.
Would you have to ask if they had an injury to the nail as well? Because that could cause that, couldn't it?
Potentially, but that usually is for injuries to this area of the nail bed. You've got to remember this is going across. So usually with these injuries to the nail bed, it's often like it might be a crack, or it might be almost like 2 nails are just
Right,
growing
my
down.
husband puts drills through his hand quite often.
Oh.
It's a tradie.
Yes.
But he does his, actually when I think about it, his is
Long ways.
Long
Yeah,
ways.
that's where I usually would see them. So always
not
do
often.
do ask questions about traumas to the nail bed because they can cause long-term problems with the growth. Yeah, good question. Okay. Now, white spots. I'm sure you all remember what this means. What does white spots mean? Okay, so if you see a nail, we tried to find you a good example of one. So if you see that, you do? Oh, try us later. So if you see it sitting on the top of the nail bed, and it's really obvious and you can see it quite clearly, that's a zinc white spot, or it could be a bruise. Okay, so it's where they've hurt their finger somehow. Okay, so a bruise is also represented that way. If it looks like the white spot is underneath the nail, it's almost like a diffuse cloud. That's more of a calcium sign. So hopefully we'll see some today later on, and we can observe them in each other. Okay.
What did you say it was?
Calcium or zinc. Yeah. Can someone just give me a time, please?
Yeah, 20 to 20.
It is 20. Oh, okay, cool. Just Speedy Gonzalez today. Okay, so I might just do this last one and then we'll take a break, okay? Alright, so bleeding. Now this is a sign of endocrine dysfunction, severe endocrine dysfunction. And can you see how it's different from those lines that were running down the nails earlier? Because it almost looks like candle wax has been dripped down the nail. And if you were to look at them side on, you can see that there's these really deep furrows. And if you would run your finger over it, they're really obvious, okay? So they're quite deep. Can you see that from looking at the picture? Yeah? So if you're thinking of endocrine disorders, you often see it in things like problems with thyroid or diabetes mellitus or Addison's disease. Also B vitamin deficiency too. Now, remember we talked a bit before about the capillary refill test. So what I want you all to do now is put one of your hands down on the table, and then I want you to press down on a nail and just observe how many seconds it takes for the blood to come back. Okay, so look closely and press down. How long does it take? So it should really be back within about 1 or 2 seconds. Yeah, 2 seconds is getting a bit slow, but usually 1 second I'd say. If it's taking any longer, then that's telling us that perhaps the blood flow to that area is poor, or it could be that there is a sign of anemia. Okay, so then go and check another nail, because sometimes they get different responses for different nails. Any differences or variances? No.
What do you call that test?
Capillary refill test. Refill, that's it, Josie. Okay. So let's take a break, huh? Now I've just put in a couple of bits and pieces of information in here on skin and also here as well, because I think it's also important that we analyse those areas, and you'll be looking at this tomorrow too when you do some of the other physical assessments. So, does everybody know what I mean when I say age spots or liver spots? Yeah. Okay, is anybody who doesn't know what I mean? Yeah? Has anybody got one that we can show? Yeah?
I call them
Yeah, they're kind of like a brownish spot, actually. Like sometimes so see how there's that brownish coloration here? Actually there as well. So that's basically, yes, that's right. So that's an age or liver spot. So they tend to come with increasing age, but I've certainly also noticed that they come very quickly when you're not taking good care of your liver. And I have not detoxed for the last 2 years. I'm just in the midst of one at the moment. And boy, has all my aging increased. So I'm back to twice a year now. I've decided by hook or by crook. So I really encourage you guys to start doing detoxing, especially twice a year, because it just so supports that liver. Remember we were talking earlier, 2,000 functions, cleansing the blood every 5 minutes, you know, it's vitally important, so we want to support it where we can.
Can you get rid of amygdala?
Yes.
Okay, detoxing.
Yeah. Just like the liver lines, like my liver lines are completely softened when I'm detoxing.
People have them taken off by laser, don't they?
Really interesting, yeah. Okay, so low antioxidants also too would be a key thing to look at there. But remember what we were talking about earlier. Okay, we were talking about the antioxidants and taking them, or we could take something that had a mild oxidant nature that would then stimulate our body to produce our own antioxidants. Okay. Easily bruised, that should say, not just bruising, so easily bruised. You could be looking at things like low vitamin A, iron, bioflavonoids and vitamin C as well too, vitamin K too. Dermatitis and eczema, always just remember to look for food allergies and intolerances, but there also might be some nutrient deficiencies in there as well. Fatty deposits, so you might also want to write, these are called milia, M-I-L-I-A, and they just look like a whitehead, and then when you try to pop them, nothing comes out, and if you try to get them out, you'll note that they have a little nerve attached to them, okay? So some beauticians will take them out with a small scalpel, and they're basically just a fatty deposit. I've had them come along a few times now, and each time it's been after I've had Chinese. Stop eating it, it's the worst food. But the next morning, there was one on my face, so I know support liver definitely that night if you are going to break and have that comfort food. So have a look at basically how your bile secretions are working, how the liver's functioning, gallbladder's functioning too. Some gallbladder flushes would be a good idea as well. Oily skin, definitely look at fat metabolism, look at liver and how it's coping. If you have excess hair growth over particular parts of the face, or parts of the body, in fact even at some stages, but primarily here we're looking at the face, it can indicate a weakness of those organs, okay? It can indicate a weakness of those organs. Or perhaps also eating too much animal proteins as well, okay? So animal proteins, we were talking about that earlier with your clients. Now, petechiae, they look like little burst blood vessels. Has anybody ever seen these on their face? Maybe in different parts of the body even? Like little burst blood vessels. No? You got them there too? Cool, okay. So, look at low vitamin C. Premature wrinkles. So obviously things like dehydration and smoking are key, but also it could be some nutrients as well too, like essential fatty acids. Water is hugely important. I've seen so many people who do not drink enough water who look prematurely aged. So if you want to stay young, drink lots of water. Now in terms of hair, the hair can also tell us lots of information. And of course we use hair for testing all sorts of things too, don't we? What do we use it for testing?
Allergies.
Allergies, yeah. Anything else?
Heavy metals.
Heavy metals, good. Yeah.
Drug use.
Drug use, in fact it does, yeah. In fact, I was talking to, I think it was a psych nurse or a counsellor in England. That was one of the forms of testing they used to do. It was quite expensive though, it's interesting.
Sometimes required by courts.
Ah, interesting, so they're still using it.
I've got a friend whose ex is a meth,
Yes.
has meth issues.
So to prove these off, they have to testing.
To be able to see his case.
Yep, so we also can use it nowadays to check for nutrients, deficiencies or excesses. In the allergy testing you get through some companies, they'll also check for exposure to different yeasts and bacteria as well, or reactions to different chemicals in our environment, like Roundup and all sorts of things. So it's amazing the kind of level of detail that we can learn from our hair.
Have you heard of the cell well-being test?
No.
It's similar to what everything that you're talking about.
Yep.
We do it at the house 2000 so and it's like you hear what the volatility scans it for all that information.
Just one piece of hair?
You do four.
Four, yeah.
Yeah. You usually need it for the follicle.
Yes.
On the it's usually taken in the middle.
Yes. Sounds interesting, I have to look into it. Okay, so some other ones that, remember we were talking about if the last third of the eyebrow was missing, and that was an indication of hypothyroidism, okay? Hair loss is often very common after pregnancy too, makes sense, because in a sense you've been stripped mined of a lot of nutrients, so often they can have problems with their gums and their teeth as well too. If your hair is looking quite dull or dry or brittle, definitely go and have a look at the EFAs and also silica as well. Premature grey. Now this could be something that gets passed through a family line, but it can also be related to low B vitamins and different antioxidants. In my family line, they all go prematurely grey really young. Like my father was pretty much grey by 18, and so I was a bit terrified of that, as you can imagine. And it's interesting because I have noticed that every time I stop taking B vitamins, I start to get way more grey hairs. So back on B vitamins, I usually go or increase my
copper
intake.
deficiency as well. Copper.
Copper deficiency.
Yeah.
Copper's a tricky one because it's heavy metal, so you've got to be really careful with how you're getting that in your diet or through water, copper piping, things like that. So. And dandruff, we were talking a bit about that earlier, weren't we? I think it was with you. So we've got biotin, zinc, and also again EFAs. But also, the other thing I've noticed with people who have dandruff is they often have a really busy brain. There's a lot of overactivity, there's a lot of heat being produced, okay? So it makes sense that this area would also become quite dry and they often will have dandruff. So you might want to write in there too, brain overactivity.